Erica, I'm gonna make you co-host just in case something happens that you need to be co-host.
Okay.
Good morning, Pathaya. Thank you for joining us today. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Fatia.
Tia, sorry.
How are you all doing?
I felt in my spirit that I was gonna try so hard.
I appreciate it anyway.
I'm
Thank
good. How are you?
I'm pretty okay. Still,
Good.
hanging on to that thread. Gonna make it.
Yeah. Well,
Glad to be here today.
thank you for being in community with us today.
Absolutely.
Good morning. Thank y'all for joining us today. I see all the names popping up across all the things. Thank y'all for being in community with us today. We appreciate it. Hope everybody's week is going by smoothly.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say happy birthday to Shekinah again.
Wow.
And
Thank you.
I want to lift every woman in the world with everything that's going on with women. So just want to lift and send blessings to every woman. It's just been a heavy few weeks with everything that I've been seeing on the news. So sending love to all the women out there.
Thank you for that, CJ. I received that. We received that.
Happy birthday, Shekinah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As folks are joining the call, want to give people some time to get situated and make sure that we um are removing I'm removing all the things that don't need to be on the call, just so that we can make sure that we have a good idea of who's with us today. We'll get officially started in a few moments, but just wanted to kind of level set us. If you've been joining the call for the past few weeks, we've just been kind of, doing a welcome and an icebreaker and really just wanting to make sure that as we're joining the call, we're creating space for people to transition into this space, especially because it is virtual and especially with the nature of the work that we do. We know that this is a space that people are entering coming off of tasks and meetings and personal things, professional things. And so just want to make sure that we are giving people space to pause, to breathe, to be present, to center yourselves as you transition into the village, into this sacred gathering space. And we are aiming to continue to be intentional about what that means for our members and what you need. And so no pressure, but we appreciate when you all just come off mute and just tell us how you're feeling, how you're doing, what's on your mind, what's happening in the world, what's on your thoughts. And we just aim to continue to create space for that. So genuinely thank y'all for being with us today. We really appreciate it. And just want to say welcome. We invite you, like I said, to settle into this space in whatever way that means for you. Again, that is no pressure to come off mute, even if that is just taking a deep breath, taking a second, taking a selah, getting present with your body. Sometimes this is our first time seeing ourselves on camera and realizing what we look like for the first time today. And so just wanted to offer a second to just take a beat and do that. Whew, all right. Please continue as this call continues. Please continue to use this space to do whatever you need. Um, well, if this is your first time on the call, welcome back. If you're new to the call, just wanted to kind of remind, maybe for some and inform for the first time for some, that this is our village team. Our amazing executive director, Erika Burnett, is joining us today, and she will be anchoring and guiding our conversation on our call today. We have Lattimore, our amazing capacity building senior manager, and myself, Shekinah Stacy, the program manager. And our emails are there in case anybody is just curious about how to get in contact with us. And so just always want to include that slide on there. Never want to assume that people know all the things and where to find us. So just wanted to go over that really quickly. Oh, wow. Why did that do that? Okay. Um, So this is something that I've been indulging in the past few village calls if you've been on. It's just kind of a funny way to just make the day feel a little lighter. We know, like I said, with the nature of our work, by 11 o'clock, there's been some feels. Some things might have happened. Some fires you might have then already had to pull out. Some meetings you then already might have had to sit in, or some drop off school lines you then had to navigate. And so we just want to kind of create space to get present, in a way that is light, that doesn't feel super heavy, but in a way just to kind of see how you feel and do a temperature check, see, how the feels that we have on the call. It's a funny way just for us to kind of know where y'all heads is at, how y'all's morning has been going. And so just feel free to drop in the chat what meme you feeling like today. If you were one, you kind of already a little bit over it. You're over it. If you're a two, you Patrick sitting on your rock with your incense, and you chilling, you good, you are maintaining your own level of zen today. If you a three, you in work mode, you been sending emails and pressing buttons since you opened your eyes this morning. You've been doing the things. You are typing kitty, okay? And you've been typing all day. And you ain't stopped. And if you a four, you feeling the feels. Maybe you like me, you coming off of a birthday weekend, and you just like you keeping the vibes going. You ready to go. So just let us know how you feeling in the chat, or you can come off mute. Feel free to come off mute, but just a fun way to temperature check. Okay, we got a lot of threes. Okay, we got a two. Okay, that's good. Two's good. Solid threes though. We got a lot of people that's been pressing all the buttons this morning. Okay, we got a four. Yeah. She said definitely feeling and looking like that three.
I want to say, Shekinah, as I interject myself here, that I felt some judgment coming from you about my three this morning, and that is not inclusive behavior that we are demonstrating on this call. I can be a three. I can
This
be a
is
three
a safe
today because
space.
I'm gonna be tomorrow a two. So I'm gonna keep my
Yes.
three today because I'm gonna be a two tomorrow. So I just want to say I
Yes.
felt judged. Okay, shots
No.
fired, and it was unnecessary, ma'am. You told twos. Okay, I see you, but darn you threes. I mean, I get it. You hold space for us, but I'm
Because
calling
it's a
you
lot of
out.
threes. I'm I am st- I am standing in solidarity with threes. That has been the word that I am familiarizing myself with. It's a lot of threes, and I'm standing with y'all with the threes. This is a safe space for the threes. So we gonna hope that it's twos and fours by the end of the day. But thank y'all for indulging in us. We love the ones, twos, and threes and fours. We know that we cycle through all of this throughout the day. So I appreciate y'all. No matter whether you are a one, two, or a three, or a four, we hope and invite you to just lean into whatever you need, whatever energy you need to channel. Definitely need to channel some of that three energy. So I appreciate the typey kitties today. And feel free to continue to just drop numbers throughout the call. If you need to just, if by the end of the call you feeling like a four at around 11:50, just drop the four in the chat. Okay. Erica, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I feel like that's a good time to stop sharing so that me and my memes are not a distraction. It's time to be serious. But I will kind of pass the baton to Erica to kind of let us know tell us a little bit about our Ask Q&A session today. We're super excited about and tell us a little bit about our host and all the things. So, Erica, you have the floor.
Thank you, Shekinah. Hey, y'all. It's good to see your faces, some newish folks, some, of course, our old friends. Brother Caldwell, you and I feel like we have a conjoined schedules these days, in these streets. So that's been really fun. We proctored, y'all. We proctored at a school, elementary school together on Monday. I said, she got you too, huh? And he was like, yeah. So we gave each other the nod in the hallway while we went on to the classroom with the children because we definitely got by an amazing colleague to volunteer to proctor. It's always great to be in community. We started the Ask Me segments really as a an opportunity to create the intimate platform for the village to ask questions of some of our major systems partners around some of the complexities, right? It's nice when people come and talk to us for 15, 20 minutes, or we're in a workshop with them and we get to hear little sound bites. We wanted the Ask Me segments to be an opportunity for us to dive a little deeper, to hear what's happening in real time, especially with our village members or sector partners who are doing collaboration that really intersects both sort of at that on the ground grassroots level, but then also at the policy level. And I have been really, really fortunate over the last couple of months to at least be able to share some space time and airtime with the amazing Dawn Harrington from Free Hearts. Currently, Dawn and I both sit on the mayor's community safety task force. I am no stranger to the work of Free Hearts and including a few of her amazing team members who have joined the village's leadership programs along the way, who come to workshops and shake things up for us and just make sure that we're able to better understand, excuse me, better understand the layers of this very, very important work. So while we love being in person, Dawn is out here in these streets doing exactly what an executive director does, learning, sharpening skills, making connections, and leveraging resources. So we decided that the best way to keep the conversation going today would be to meet virtually. So Dawn, thank you so much for joining us. I think Shekinah, can you pin both Dawn and I while we're having the dialogue?
Yes.
Um, we would love to actively engage our audience in this process, especially since it's virtual. It makes it a little easier than like them running me notes from the other room because we're using the owl and live in our village house. So with that in mind, please go ahead and drop any questions you have in the chat. If I don't see them, Shekinah will be monitoring and we can make sure to volley that information. But let's dive in and spend some time together. So I want to welcome Ms. Dawn Harrington from Free Hearts to the Village platform for our Q&A session. So hey, Dawn.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Erika,
It's so good
and
to
everyone.
see you.
Thank you.
Dawn, would you mind starting by just telling us about yourself? And you know how we do with us. Like, tell us what you want to know. What would you like us to know about you, your work, your passion, your journey? And we'll start there.
Okay. Hey, y'all. So I am Don Harrington. I'm from Nashville, actually, 37208 North Nashville, born and raised. And um, I used to do work in the music industry, working for artists that have major label deals. And so I was working at the time for BG which is, for those that don't know, or it's like one of the hot boys. and ended up catching a charge in New York. Um, it was basically for a firearm, which it was, of course, legal in Tennessee, but not in New York. I didn't know that. And ultimately, um, because of being a rapper myself, working for rappers, they used a lot of like um my music, the artists I work for, music, and what I do to like take the deal away, and it made me end up basically having to do time. That's kind of like the short version. While I was there, I because my brother was already formally incarcerated. For those that don't know, like 37208 is the highest incarcerated zip code for people born between 80 and 86 in the whole country. And so, no stranger to, uh, family, people from the community, being incarcerated. My little brother had been incarcerated before, and but nothing really prepared me for like, being within my career, having been in a career for like almost 10 years at that time, and becoming incarcerated. And it was a totally different situation, one thing from the inside of a women's facility, because a lot I don't have any children, but that was one time I was like very glad that I didn't, because a lot of the sisters were trying to parent from being incarcerated. And I just noticed like it was so many brilliant women, so many women that had so many talents, so many beautiful qualities about themselves, and that none of us, at first I was just mad that I was incarcerated, but that none of us should have really been incarcerated. And there was other things we might have needed, but it definitely wasn't a cage. And that was just exacerbating the harm, not to mention for our sisters that were parents, how it was impacting the children and impacting the families and the communities at home, because women pay because of women's role in the community. And so I had a vision when one of our sisters like ended up back after a weekend, and I was just so upset. I remember I wrote in a journal that I wanted to start an organization called Free Hearts, and I'll say ultimately once I got out, I just went back into the music industry and worked with other artists, because the artist that I was working for ended up getting indicted for something that he didn't even do. They wanted him to tell on somebody else, and so I worked for another artist. I worked for the inaugural balls, Obama's second inaugural balls, um, assistant to the music instrument coordinator. Then I started working for Trill Entertainment, which is another rap label. But it was one of those things to where like nothing was going right until I actually answered this calling to come back home to Nashville and really just start the organization. And so ultimately I did. And got with other formerly incarcerated women and started planning the organization in 2015. And we launched 10 years ago. And it's been the most purposeful work that I've ever done. And, we've been able to make a lot of change, but we still have a lot of more work to do. But I'm just very proud of what we've been able to do these last 10 years.
So tell us about this baby that you birthed. Tell us about this work of Free Hearts. What do you do? Why do you do? Well, we hear a little bit about the why, but obviously that's grown. So yeah, tell us about the work.
Yeah, so we have teams that move the bodies of our work. So I'll just speak a little bit to that. Campaigns and policy. We work to change all the policies that impact us, and we run campaigns to free people as well. And so we've been able to change laws, community-based alternatives to incarceration for primary caregivers, um, laws around reproductive justice, along with Healthy and Free Tennessee, prenatal care for pregnant incarcerated women, end of shackling of pregnant incarcerated women, worked on school zone, um, taking away the school zone enhancements, as well as been able to pass some legislation this year, which I'll speak a little bit more to. But our overarching campaign is Free the People, Free the Vote. And we run campaigns under it every single year. And included within that, we've also been able to get 5 people out from a governor's clemency. Community and cooperatives, we train, incubate, and provide non-extractive financing for cooperative businesses and cooperative housing for marginalized communities to build companies and build housing together. And that's in partnership with Southeast Center for Cooperative Development. Together, we started um, a fund called the New Economy of Tennessee Fund. And yeah, we're working to build a cooperative ecosystem across the state. We also do direct services. Shout out to Peaches, who's on the call. Does a lot in this area as well as some of the other areas that we have. And that's where we do programs inside of facilities, juvenile, jail, prison, in the community, provide different services to people within the community. A lot of times that's an entryway into the organization, into the organizing that we do. Um, Free to vote, we restore voting rights and do jail voting in jails, help people to vote from jails, but we also work to change the policies around that. Participatory defense, we help people that are navigating cases currently, and then as we see patterns in cases, then we turn them into campaigns. Additionally, so we have 2 participatory defense hubs, one for the criminal legal system and one called Free Hub, which is for people that are facing the family court system. And so we do that. But all in all, our core strategy is organizing, because our theory of change is that, like, to get free, we have to organize. And so no matter where you come into our organization at, our organizing team is going to try to organize you, bring you into leadership of the organization, and because it's strength in numbers, and it takes all of us to make the change that we want to see. And so within that, and we do that also because we see ourselves as a movement building organization. We are very active in the mass incarceration or abolitionists, or people directly impacted by incarceration movement within the state of Tennessee, within um, national as well as global. And in fact, along those lines, we hold the operations of the International Network of Formerly Incarcerated Women, which has sister organizations across 34 countries, every continent except Antarctica, that are just like ours, led by formerly incarcerated women, and really just fighting to make change. And we're working together. We realize that um, no matter what side of the border you on, a lot of our stories are the same, and we're working together to make change.
Can't talk about them. You just dropped so many gems. And I would love if folks would like to ask any questions, to feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll filter them. I want to back up. You're leading us to this question around power, but before we go there, I want to unpack what could maybe be seen as some buzzwords, right? Like you just had us drinking from a water hose with all the amazing impact that you all and the areas that you touch. But I'm going to be very honest, some of those, especially around the policy campaign, unless you have asked the questions, you really don't know about shackling, right? And so the direct services, and I know the work that Peaches is doing feels a little bit more like within the public's view, right, of like what is acceptable or what is common interventions. But when we talk about that policy piece, can you break down, in the anti-shackling law is one that comes up for me because I know Healthy and Free was working on it, and I was a little adjacent in Chattanooga at the Women's Fund there. Tell us what the issue is, and how Tennessee sort of maps against other places. And then sort of what were those sort of series of policies specifically around shackling, just so we have a really clear understanding when we talk about policy change, what the true issue, some of the examples of the issues for incarcerated women.
Yes, definitely. So first of all, we know that so shackles is basically to where you have literal chains around your ankles. You're chained to the bed while you're having a baby, while you're going to um, while you're going into labor, but also like when you come, for different medical visits and stuff like that. And it increase, and you also like when you're walking up, you have chains. You also often have chains around your handcuffs, shackles, and sometimes they'll also have like waist shackles as well. Like they'll have them shackled around your waist. And so there's a lot of medical issues, as you can only imagine, of a shackle, um, for a pregnant woman. It increases, risk of, miscarriage. It delays emergency interventions. There's like risk of falls. It complicates labor and delivery. And then it's just dehumanized. I mean, we are, African Americans, Black people on here, and it's like the shackling comes from slavery. Let's just be real. And it's serious health risk for mama and baby. One of our sisters that is from Atlanta, just right next door in Atlanta. Like her story ended up being like a national story, pushing this on a federal level. And we actually all set out together in a plan to get it done because it had already gotten done in like, I want to say 20 or 25 states at the time. And us from like, we had a little small convening of 3 states that hadn't done it, and it was ours. Georgia, and it was another Oklahoma, which all of us have now passed it. And then 3 states that had, and we kind of learned from each other when we were getting ready to like try to pass this. But after that, Pam's story really like pushed it out on a real national level where she did miscarry from these shackles. And so it really just violates human rights and dignity. Like it's unnecessary. Who do you know that's gonna get up off of a labor bed and just like run away and escape? Like it's unnecessary to shackle women um to the bed while they're having a baby. Like they're not going to go anywhere. And so and most pregnant incarcerated women are low risk of escaping anyway, even with or without the shackles, with or without being in labor. And so it's just it interferes with like medical ethics, all of these things. And so um yeah, like I said, at the time when we worked on doing this, like 25 states had already passed it. And so we were just a state that was still doing it.
And we know our maternal health rates rank. We hang at the bottom of a lot of lists, and that being one of them. So now you just gave, I think, a perfect example to the breadth of the strategies for Free Hearts to build power. Can you talk about your orientation and understanding of what power means for both the woman who was exposed to inhumane practices like shackling, and how you are building, cultivating power for and with her, and then the power of the collective of Free Hearts to be able to move actual policy and laws? What are those strategies, and what does that really mean for you all when you approach a understanding of something that can be contentious for folks, right? We've been on the other side of power and abuse.
Yeah, absolutely. So, power, one of the things that we say, like, as communities directly impacted by incarceration, which is nothing about us without us. It's like, for one, we feel that we're the experts in our experience in the things that we've gone through. And those closest to the problem are closest to the solution, but oftentimes furthest from power and resources. And so we work together across our state, build power across our state with the impacted people, but also within the wider movement, other people that have these experiences, whether they're in Georgia, whether they're in Zambia or Uganda, and really like come together, learn from each other, learn from maybe a group that has done it before. Like, what are the different strategies that you all did? Like, within the community-based alternatives and the two with the shackling and with prenatal care. Like we got, women's doctors, nurses, nursing students, um, different folks involved in the campaign that was outside of people that were impacted, but really within the medical community. So really, a part of it is like building coalitions in order to represent diverse stakeholders, to really push back. Maybe it's a women's group that really cares about this. Maybe it's a group that just really cares about maternal health, like bringing them into this issue and them educating us and us educating them and us working together to get it done. Like I said, we did the two reproductive justice bills with Healthy and Free. So at that time, they were organization, as they would call it at that time. And so they had, organizations across the state and also individuals that, plugged into the campaign. And we plugged our base into the campaign as well. And so it strengthened numbers, and it's a numbers game. And a lot of times, it's really about building those coalitions with diverse organizations and everybody bringing their base into the fight in order to get something done. But in order to do that, you know, within our, for us to be a good coalition member, like we have to build our own base up as well. And so part of what that really looks like is, folks doing one-on-ones within the organization, no matter what your role is in the organization, like you're an organizer. Like you're supposed to be doing one-on-ones every week, figuring out like what people want to, bring into the organization, trying to pull them into, okay, through a ladder of engagement of trying to, okay, can you do this one thing? And if they're showing up, like seeing if you can just keep pulling them into the leadership. We also do like inside outside organizing. So our first organizing space was in the Jameson County Jail when we were first trying to pass our first bill. And um because it was important to us, we knew what we had been through, but we wanted to make sure to involve the people on the inside. And so now, like as we've gotten, more plugged in with the prisons as well, it's like in every prison, there's people from every, because part of what we were coming up against with the power to change policy was that coming from Nashville at the beginning, like mostly Black women from Nashville, it was like, our constituents don't want this when, a lot of the legislators come from rural communities that, it's maybe one person from Nashville on a committee, but you can't pass the bill that way. And so we had to figure out how to organize statewide in order to get the things done that we wanted to do. And so some of in the prisons, like there are people from almost every county and every prison, and they have an incredible outreach capacity. So really doing the leadership development not only on the outside but on the inside, and really working together to get things done. In addition to that, really, and I touch on this, is like the urban and rural statewide organizing. And a lot of the rural communities have a disproportionate say so as far as their legislators on what happens, to us. And so at first, like, that seemed daunting because they made their, constituents seem like, the big bad wolf. But when we got pushed into like a rural part for a early campaign that we was working on around the criminalization of poverty, a rural part of Rutherford County. And what we saw is that although it was like, yeah, you're going to see Confederate flags, but we're seeing 15 people in a single wide trailer, and the trailer get repossessed, and all of them impacted by incarceration and substance use disorders and stuff like that. And so it's like, wait a minute, these are the people that they're hiding out behind. A lot of them don't even know who their legislator even is. And so it really helped us to create a hypothesis that we can organize them. But one of the lessons that we learned when it comes to that is that we necessarily couldn't, because us being, Black women from Nashville, like we could have good conversations about poverty and criminalization, but we couldn't organize these small, tight knit rural communities. And so, what we did was really create a fellowship where we can find people that are natural leaders in their community and also directly impacted, give them I said 30, a 6 month organizing and leadership development training. They have to do praxis or actually do some organizing work while they're doing it, and then develop our leadership that way. And then they train the next cohort and to build power across the state. And so they're not only they're organizing their own communities, but they're bringing in organizers from different counties in the next one, and we're just continuing to build it out that way. And so those are some of the ways that we use, but basically it's like bringing people into the fight, giving them something to do and working together, collectively governing ourselves and working together to really make changes that we want to see.
John, I've heard you talk about, I think it was in as an example, in maybe one of our sessions with Metro, and you gave that example of, I'm gonna say, sort of pulling back the veil for who the constituents were or really are in some of these rural communities. Um, and then you gave us some very like practical ways. This is what we found, and then it presented a new problem, right? Like we can have conversations and we can connect, but how does that translate into like power? And so I'm gonna jump, if you following our questions from earlier, I'm gonna jump a little bit because I think this brings up that curiosity around the tension between that relationship building and that I'm gonna say electoral accountability, right? You've already named there is a barrier around experience and understanding because these are folks who have been formerly incarcerated, or you're talking about issues that may be pushed to the margins. We know that there's a race, a gender, right? Like all of these other layered isms that we encounter, especially when working with legislatures. I was pregnant when I moved into the role as executive director for the Women's Fund of Chattanooga. Being pregnant and working with elected officials in Chattanooga felt and looked very different in this body than even in Nashville, right? And like that required even a different level of strategy. People didn't know my business, but they projected things, right? And so what that means politically, especially when there's issues that cross gender thresholds, gets really sensitive. And so I'm curious from you, what are some of the ways in which you hold that tension of, I have to build these relationships in meaningful ways, even with people who may not be on the right side of true solidarity, but I know I need to move them in order to accomplish a thing. What has that looked like for you and for Free Hearts?
Yeah, so I think about that both within the communities as well as within the legislators when you're asked that question. So I think, one of our movement brothers at this thing that I was at last week, Daryl Atkinson, said, "We have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests." And that really resonated with me because it's like, although you know, relationship is the key. I mean, think about it from the perspective of your own family, right? Do you agree with every single thing that they say? But and some and there's some, caveats to even this example, but just mainly trying to name is that just because we disagree doesn't mean we have to fall out of relationship with each other. And to me, it's that the the actual thing is that we actually have to be deeper in relationship to be able to have those debates and conversations and still remain in relationship with each other. And along those lines, it's just really yeah, I think it's first of all, it's a theory of change. It's a theory of like we actually need each other to get things done. We actually need to build a critical mass to get the things done that we need to do. And so in order to do that, you need people. And in order to, have people, you're not gonna have, clones or just like people that all think the same way and have enough people to get things done. And so for one, within the community, like debate is a thing. Like being able to respectfully disagree, have the conversations, as they say, like iron sharpens iron. And if we're willing to stay in relationship and actually debate each other on different things, we can always be better, because really nobody is the holder of the knowledge. Like even like I'm passionate about the things, that we do, and why and how I think about them. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not, that doesn't mean I'm like perfect in my thinking and always right about it. Like it's always something that everybody is a student, everybody is a teacher, and being able to really have that, open-minded perspective, that and we actually have that in one of our vision statements. It's really, because in our longer one, it's like always learning, teaching, like, and basically just not staying in relationship with each other even when we disagree. And it's been beautiful, because some of those conversations, like even some of the one-on-ones that I may have with like potential like rural organizers, like I'm just like, we had some very interesting conversations. And, we're like, we need each other. Like, you're my sister, you're my brother. Like, let's just keep debating it. And it's so interesting how people can actually move along. Like if you just give up on somebody and just like, oh, okay, they're just backwards and then what they're thinking, like you're just allowing them to get organized by another faction and even get pulled further in the direction away. If you can stay in relationship, then you can help bring people, along. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants, I mean, for the most part, people want, a peaceful life. They want to be able to thrive. They want, safety. They want community. You know what I mean? There's a lot of more things that we're alike within the community, as opposed to that we're not. But if we don't take the time to like build with people that's like different than us, then like we're not gonna have enough power to do the things that we need to do. And along the lines of the legislators, I think, yeah, that no permanent enemies is really important. There's been plenty of times where, because there's a lot of things that you disagree with, but at the end of the day, if my base is trying to, get these things done, then year after year we're going in front of the same people until folks are moved out of the way. And so it's like, having regular meetings with even some of the most difficult people that basically are roadblocks for getting, things done. And it's like, having multiple, community members, their constituents, other organizations protracted over years, really just coming in and talking to them. I mean, if it gets, debating them. I mean, when you don't agree, I don't agree with this. This is why I don't want you to do this. Even if they do it, like, just keeping on coming back. Um, and there's been plenty of times when that really is the situation, but we have interests. We're, our base has things that we're trying to do, and part of that is, engaging with these, government agencies to get them done. And so, in order to do that, basically, we keep the interest at the forefront. And when we disagree, we have the debate around it. When we agree, we thank them, but at the end of the day, we're continuing to move our agenda forward.
It is deeply personal, and we have to find ways to move the needle without it being personal, right? Especially with folks who are elected officials. I wanna move us along because I want to open up for Q&A in just a bit. And so I want to switch gears and ask about this community safety task force. Your base, you actively curate and engage a membership base to be agitators, right? To challenge the status quo And so I'm not going to project, but I know the feedback that I received when there was the announcement about the Community Safety Committee, and very directly when they added surveillance, right, to that communication. That was the issue. I'm not going to project for you, but for my folks, that was really the issue. And so I'm curious for you, one, why did you say yes to joining this task force, especially when many of us have been around many times with many go rounds of some type of plan? What is the interest of Free Hearts in participating in this process? And then what are you hoping is going to be on the other side as you have been actively engaging your base in this process? Really as an extension of you. You have been so intentional about bringing their voice into that space and feeding that information. So we'd love to just hear your thoughts and positioning.
Yeah, so when it comes to the Community Safety Task Force, for me, what stood out once I received it before I even brought it to the organization was that the name community safety. We know that those words like safety, public safety, as a base of people that are impacted by incarceration all across the state, like that's something that's used as like a code word for policing, surveillance, prisons, and all of the other punishment systems. And so, and in the name of quote unquote safety, just a lot of those things take place. And so, that and in addition to that, it was going to be from a public health lens, which we've done extensive research on. We came out with a report, keeping kids and parents together, a healthier approach to sentencing in Tennessee. And when we were trying to pass the first law that we did, and we really looked at the issues of like incarceration, violence, different things from the perspective of public health. So we were familiar with that. So, bringing it to the organization as you do when, we're asked to do something, and just seeing if folks thought it was a good idea, they did. And so, to what you said, once the announcement came out, because at that time we didn't really know who else. Like at that time it was like, okay, Free Hearts, we want to get our information in here. We want to make sure to influence the process and whatever comes out of this. Well, once the actual task force was announced, then it was a totally different thing, because then you realize like all of the important voices that were actually left out of the conversation, like Gideon's Army, like Mothers Over Murder, like Rafa Institute, like a lot of folks that do this work each and every day. And it's like, okay, and oh, like the Office of Youth Safety, like literally folks that should have been in a conversation like this. And so it expanded the priorities as opposed to just like bringing in the information from our base, to make sure that other organizations that we're in relationship with really were able to know what was going on with this, since these exclusions were intentional. Let's just be real. And so to make sure that they know what's going on, are able to give their input and influence this process as well, and also, able to give, whatever they want to be said, figure out how they can engage with the process, etc. And so, what that turned into, the same thing that I was going to do with my base, I sent out to like with Free Hearts Base, I sent out to like 50 people from across 30 organizations in Nashville, just really before the meetings, like, hey, this is what happened in the last meeting. Like, this is, what went down. Like, this is what we're talking about in the next meeting. Like, is there anything you want me to lift up? Also, here's the different public comment things that are happening. Like, really just keeping everybody in the loop, because at the end of the day, I know like a lot of organizations in this city have done so much extensive work around community safety that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, we've all been asking our bases. I remember like we were in the start of the National People's Budget, and also the start of the Black National Assembly. Like, we were there in the beginning of it, planning stages of both of those. And it's like, for years, we have all been, asking our communities what makes them feel safe. Like thousands and thousands of people across the city of Nashville. Also with Gideon's Army, they've done extensive work in this area, and so it's like, all of a lot of that. Wealth of knowledge, body of information already exists. And so just wanting to make sure that we have ways to really like get it out there and influence this process. And not only that, I think what has been important is that because I haven't been involved in any of these like plans or task force, but one thing that I have seen with others is that some of the more opinions that are away from what they want to do, like that are more punitive, that are more surveillance, and all of these things, the opposing viewpoints, even though it's a lot of different viewpoints at the table, but those type of viewpoints that goes against what the agenda is often becomes just a footnote or just something, small. So another thing that has been important to me to push the task force is like weigh all of our opinion. You got everybody at the table, weigh all of our what we think, equally, as opposed to, just for us that are pushing back against punishment and surveillance and a lot of the things that we know. If you go upstream with safety and public health, we know those things are actually exacerbating the problem. They're actually creating intergenerational versions of the problem, and it's not healing our communities. It's actually making our communities less safe. And so, that's been very important for me as well.
Dawn, before I open it up to questions from our participants today, is there anything about the work of Free Hearts, maybe any of your legislative priorities from this session, anything that you want to share with our village before we open it up?
Yeah, so I'll just speak to this session. This session, we were able to move some of our legislative priorities forward within the Free the People, Free the Vote campaign. So within our Free the Vote coalition that we convened, we were able to pass legislation that remove court costs as a barrier to voting rights restoration. And if you have a consistent payment for 12 months, also child support as a barrier to voting rights restoration. And especially like with the court costs, like when we were doing this at scale, which that's a whole other thing. But court costs by far for those that were ineligible was like over 75%. It was because of court costs. Some people owe like $120,000 of court costs. Like you will never be able to pay that off. So this actually expands the electorate and who's available. Of course, you know, it's like it's interesting because even with all of the policy work, it's also already so much more to do. And so next year we will, continue and put, because our North Star is to get it back to between 1973 and 1981. There was no felony disenfranchisement in the state. Like people in prison could vote, and people that were convicted during that time right now in prison are still voting. Now they're getting older, but there are still people voting that were convicted during that time. People had to actually come within the prison where, a lot of these districts are drawn around their bodies, and because of prison gerrymandering, and a lot of them don't have the right to vote. And so back then, people would have to come in and try to seek the vote. Things were less punitive because they actually had a vote of what goes on in those districts. And so that's our North Star. But this year, we were able to take away some of the barriers. Next year, we're going to continue pushing towards that North Star of really like voting rights for all, because we know that um, for one, we're number one in the country for felony disenfranchisement, period. But even before that, because some reforms in like Florida made us number one now. And so, which shout out to our brother Desmond out there, like they led a campaign to restore a bunch of voting rights, and now we're number one. But we were always, since we've been doing this work, number one for Black people. And so what that means is it takes away from the power of our communities to really determine like the people that are in there that's going to um, you know, make the right decisions and to really fight for us and, these legislators and, these city councils and these judges, etc. And I mean, we're always talking about voter turnout, but people who have lost their voting rights are a high voter turnout people. It just imagine like if you lose something, you're going to take it less for granted. And so really addressing felony disenfranchisement is really how we can change our state. um and it's the sleeping giant that could really make a whole lot of change, but we actually have to work to get as many voting rights back as possible. So we made a step in that direction. Another thing that we were able to do, so our we also convened a coalition called Separate Acts Separate Facts Coalition, and it is about criminal responsibility and felony murder, basically where you can be held responsible for what somebody else did. And it's something that disproportionately impacts Black people, young people, women, survivors, etc. And there's many people that we know, but for that, they would not be doing these draconian sentences that they're doing. And from when we started first working on this in 2018, it's like, um, the people up there were like, look, this is never going to happen. This is political suicide. And really working hand in hand with folks inside, from 2018 all the way up until now. And still, like, they were able to help, like, because some legislators end up coming in and they were coming in for something else, but these folks were part of the campaign and they like told their stories and they were like, we want to do something to help. And so last year we had a summer study. This year we actually were able to pass the first piece of legislation. However, it's just a small step because this year we separated out criminal responsibility and felony murder, because now we're starting to get some momentum and getting more and more legislators on board. And when it was coming towards the end of the session, um, because some of the Senator Roberts and Chair Gardenhire, folks from Senate Judiciary, they were like, let's move something forward next year, work on getting some of the rest done and also getting retroactive. And so this year, what we were able to do is to remove and to require intent to be held criminally responsible for somebody's actions as the Separate Acts, Separate Facts Coalition. But just recognizing we have a long way to go. Like, as soon as we started getting momentum to that, we went straight to the governor's office and we're like, look, because another issue was similar to this is like we got a little increment and then we got governor's clemencies and then we got retroactive the next year and then expanded more the year after that. So soon as we were getting momentum, we went straight to the governor's office and we're like, look, we're moving something forward because this is what they have support for, but the felony murder, criminal responsibility, the rest of it, the retroactive, it's not in there. Like, we need you to grant some clemencies, just like you did with the school zone retroactivity, did 38 clemencies when they did. And by retroactive, that means like for people that are currently, a lot of times we'll see that within the legislature where something will happen for everybody from the point it goes into effect July 1 or whenever it goes into effect going forward. But there's people that are still currently incarcerated on that particular thing. And so, but a lot of times they'll separate it out and go forward and then they'll go back. But also we hit all branches of government. We do, legislative branch work, but we also do executive branch work, pushing the governor to do clemency, as well as litigation, judicial branch work, filing lawsuits, doing the constitutional challenges and different stuff like that. And so we leverage all branches of government to really get the things done that we need to do. And so this year, basically, we did a step to require intent to be held criminally responsible, but recognizing we still have far to go. We got commitments from them. around retroactivity and continuing to work towards the felony murder piece as well, because some of the stories that they heard from women in DJRC was about felony murder. They were like, we want to try to help them, and we're rocking with y'all, like moving this thing forward, making things retroactive, but we got to advance this. And so for the rest of the year, we're really going to be pushing the governor on his way out, because he's already done, like I said, five clemencies, and for us, and these clemencies were around felony murder and criminal responsibility, where somebody was held responsible for somebody else's actions. So we're like, look, you already did it. The legislature is giving you political cover because they're saying, yeah, we need to change something, and they're working with us long term on this. But you, before you leave, can do a lot of clemencies on this now, like you did with school zone retroactivity. So I just want to name that, because we haven't, with all of our legislation, like, we still have work to do, but but the main thing is that these campaigns are like long-term campaigns, and a lot of time, like I said, even with the voting bill and this bill, like, these have been bills that we have been moving forward since 2018, and then with the voting one, 2019. And so and we still have work to do on them. And so the main thing that I look at with this is like, as long as we don't give up, like, we're going to get it done. And so we just have to continue building more power, bringing more people into the campaign, and keep pushing forward to get the things we need to get.
Such a smart strategy, focusing on all three branches so they can reinforce each other. You can use a precedent in one space, like you've done this before, while you're adding pressure. Just such great work. And thank you so much, Dawn, for sharing. I know we're a little over time and you were in New Orleans trying to make some things happen. But I want to see if there's anyone who has one quick question for you before we jump off. If anybody, I just want to give a chance to open up the floor. If not, we will make sure to continue to include Free Heart's information in our communication. And of course, I think, Dawn, I sent two different people your way for some of that, like, thought partnership already. So we're making sure to make sure that you are connected to the folks who are in our network, and that where our networks are overlapping, we are growing the strength. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for taking time. I know you are running and a busy lady, so thank you so much.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me. See y'all. It takes a village.
It,
So see y'all later.
thanks, Dawn.
All
Shekinah,
right.
I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
I know we are at time. I will stay on the call for a few extra minutes in case anybody wants to take touch base. If you have something you'd like to share with the village, before you hop off, if you just want to drop it in the chat, I will just also stay on and make sure that all that information is being captured. But thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much. And we will see you not virtual, but in person next week. We'll be at our co-working day at Kahawa Coffee Shop. And so please join us there at Kahawa, and we'll be in person for a co-working day. And look forward to seeing y'all soon.
Yeah, contact information for the featured organization, please. Okay, put that in the chat.
I'll make sure
Uh,
I'm dropping that in the chat.
Hello, Brother Lee. I didn't even have to look up to see that who that voice was. Good to hear from you.
well, I'm gonna drop a quick word on y'all. I'm working on a let me just say, an accountable care project for reentry. So I'll share some information about that. And those who are interested, I'll put my uh, telephone number and email in the text. In the text.
Always good.
I'm dropping. Oh,
Okay. No, I was
sorry.
gonna say I'm
Go.
gonna jump off, but please feel free to reach out if y'all need anything.
Okay.
Thank you again, Dawn, and I know Shekinah will get everyone connected and wrapped up. Good to see y'all.
I'm dropping Free Heart's website and all the things in the chat just so that before y'all hop off, y'all can drop that. Dawn also just dropped her email in the chat. So please, if you were curious on how to get in touch with her, um, that is in the chat as well. If I will stay on, please, if y'all want to make any announcements, I invite you to do so. I know that we're at time, and so I know people do have to hop off, but I definitely will stay on and invite you all to stay on if you would like to share anything.